This wasn't part of my plan this week, actually. Thank you, Kelsey, wherever you are. But it's really cool because God did something this week that was perfect for this opportunity. It's been cool just to get to know people of this church, and I'm drawn to the young families especially because it resonates with me, and I've been there. We raised 4 kids who are now grown adults, and it's just cool to like get flashbacks of where we were when the kids were little. And this week I was talking with Kelsey actually, and I was like going over this technique of what we used when the kids were having those freak out moments, you know, they're like spazzing out in the grocery store, and it was a way to like get them to learn self-control. It was called the crunch, and you know what I'm talking about. And so I thought it was funny, but like I'm telling her this story, reflecting back to these moments when our kids were little. And at the same time, I got a text from my daughter, my little toddler, who's now 23 years old, sitting right there. And so I read the text. This is what it said. I was just sharing in community group about how thankful I am for how you've encouraged me in my walk with God. Right? Dude, I'm not going to cry. The message was really simple, but it was really profound. And I'm honored to be a part of that journey, super honored. But it did make me think about what it was that I did. Like, what did I do? So later I talked to her about it, and I asked her, I was like, what was it that impacted you? And her answer really surprised me because it wasn't what I thought. I was like, was it the crunch, or was it like when I said, say okay and obey right away? I was like, oh, that was probably it. No, it was like none of that. What she said was, it was when you were in the hallway, you put us to bed early, and you were in the hallway, and you were reading from Proverbs. And I was like, whoa, and it sounds really spiritually strong, like I'm a rock star mom. But I wasn't, because actually I remembered that time, and I was so broken, and I was crushed. Ryan had been deployed for 7 months. He had been extended an extra month. And then I just found out that he was extended another month. And I was sitting here with 4 kids under the age of 7, and I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? I was so broken. I remember just praying. I was like, this is my technique. And there were times when I was like so overwhelmed in this season, I would put the kids, I'm like, don't tell anyone this, but I would lock them in their car seats and in the garage, in the car. It was safe. And I would go back inside, and I would just sit for an extended period of time and just sit. Sometimes I'd stare, sometimes I'd cry. Most time I prayed. But in this moment, it was like that. I put the kids to bed early because I just couldn't. And I sat in the hallway and I cried, and it wasn't like cry like, Lord, help me to instill your word in my kids' hearts that they will follow you. It was like, Lord, help me because I can't do this. And it was that moment I like grabbed a Bible and I opened to Proverbs, and I was like, okay, it was Proverbs because it's 31 chapters. I was like, I'm just going to read and count down the chapters until Ryan gets home. And so every night I'd put him to bed early just for myself so I could get a break. And I read. And as I read, God spoke. He spoke to my heart. He spoke to my kids' hearts. And I was like, I really like literally had nothing left. And so Paul talks about this in 2 Corinthians 12:9. And he's talking about how God spoke to him in his struggle. God was saying to him, he says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness. I love the version of the Amplified version. It says, my loving kindness and my mercy are more than enough. They're always available, regardless of the situation. For my power is being perfected and is completed most effectively in your weakness. So until last week, I never thought about that moment, that in my weary, worn voice, that Hope, my beautiful 23-year-old daughter, would hear the heart of God. And that was so cool. It's like not about me at all. It's encouraging me now as I walk through new seasons of weakness. As I get older, there's a lot of more weakness that comes. And it's cool just to know that God's got my back, and that in my broken pieces, he's picking me up and he's like, all right, listen, you don't know what you're doing. Just say that first. You don't know what you're doing and lean into me because I do. And that's my evidence of grace.